Welcome to Postpartum Perspectives. I'm one of your hosts, Julia Kavanaugh, and I'm a teacher with Postpartum Doula Academy. I am a birth doula, postpartum doula, and newborn care specialist.
And I'm Nancy Ham, also a co host, and I teach at Gentle Ventures Training. And I just want to stick in here that we do have a class coming up
Yes.
for newborn care specialist class for 2 days, and then we're going to do a 2 day class on the postpartum doula. So if you're already a NCS, you can take this postpartum doula class. It's much less expensive than taking the whole thing because we don't have to teach you the newborn stuff anymore. And that's May 16th through the 20th. Now you can take either class or both classes, doesn't matter. Anyway, we hope we see you there. And Julie is going to kind of author this meeting because this is her thing more than my thing. So I'm going to be more of the student today, and she's going to be more of the teacher.
That's right. Thank you, Nancy.
Yes.
Oh, and also, if you're interested in getting tickets to the event, we're going to be in Santa Ana. And Nancy's website, Gentle Ventures, is where you can buy the tickets. So
Mhm.
gentleVentures.com, and you'll
Yeah,
find
at
this
events. Just click on events.
events. Okay,
Events,
thank
yeah.
you.
And it is
Perfect.
there. Yep.
Perfect. And we'll put a link at the bottom of the video too, in case
Oh,
anybody.
yeah. And by the way, this is 2025. So if you're
Yes,
listening to this next year, we're probably not going to be in Santa Ana during that time. So
it's
sorry about that,
possible,
but
but probably not.
a little free advertising here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay, so today we are talking about a very exciting, uh, popular topic, which is attachment parenting and bed sharing and what it all means in the circle. There's a lot of it's a very contentious topic. There are
Yep,
people who
really
are
is.
super pro
Hmm.
attachment parenting, people who are like, that sounds absolutely crazy to me. People who are super pro bed sharing, and people who are like, that's just not safe.
Right.
We don't do that. So, I thought we could break it down a little bit.
Okay. And
And
I want to inject something in here a minute.
yes,
Okay.
please.
Most of NCSs are going to be against bed sharing and attachment parenting. And most doulas, however, are going to be for it. So that's kind of where our difference in doula and NCS comes into play.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so this is interesting. So, first of all, what is attachment parenting? And even when I was doing the research on this, it was interesting to see that there is a distinction between attachment parenting and attachment theory. Attachment theory came first, and that was the idea that when you have secure attachments and responsive parents and closeness between the caregiver and the baby,
Mhm.
um, you the babies thrive.
Correct.
Right. And then in 1993, Dr. William Sears and his wife, Martha Sears, who's a nurse, they wrote this very popular book about babies, and they coined the term attachment parenting that was based off of attachment theory.
So let me ask you a question here. So
Yeah.
is the attach, what did you call the first one?
Attachment theory.
Attachment theory. Is that more like our responsive care that we teach now?
It include yes. So
Okay.
what's cool is that attachment theory talks about how there are four different types of attachments for adults, right? And the idea is that they all start in childhood. They all start in infancy.
Mhm.
But the goal is to get people to the secure attachment where they can trust that people are going to be there for them, but they're also pretty good at taking care of themselves.
Okay.
So there's secure attachment, there's anxious attachment, which is more of the don't leave me alone, I can't do this without you.
Right.
I have, I myself have probably been in that camp in relationships before, right? And then there's the avoidant, which is more of I don't need you, I'm fine without you, don't. like stay over there. And then there's the disorganized attachment, which is like, come here, go away, come here, go away. So attachment theory hy talks about how each one of these attachment styles originates in infancy. And if we can give our children secure, responsive parenting, we can help them get here to the secure attachment in adulthood. Um, and it's super fascinating. So from attachment theory, Dr. Sears and his wife Martha coined attachment parenting.
Okay.
And attachment parenting is a caregiving philosophy that emphasizes secure attachment and responsiveness, but they have a few specifics that they talk about, which include baby wearing,
Hmm.
bed sharing, and extended breastfeeding, right?
Now, when you say extended breastfeeding, do you mean like years?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, years. Um, but I think it's important to mention here that secure attachment in infancy and early childhood, like why, okay, so maybe when they're adults, they can trust better. Like, why do we want this? It has been linked to better emotional regulation, social competence, and mental health. So those three things come from.
It's been linked to a lot of things that are not that good too, like anxiety, like depending on mom and dad to go to sleep, can't go to sleep without them, that those kind of
But
things.
you're talking right now about attachment parenting. The thing what I just mentioned was secure attachment, which is
Oh, you got
different.
me all confused now. Okay.
Yeah, but attachment parenting can also be associated with kids who don't know how to um, take care of themselves. However, there's some research behind this that I'm interested to talk about with you.
Okay.
So, the science behind attachment parenting and its impact on newborn development. So, it's rooted in attachment theory. We already talked about that. Um, the quality of the caregiver's responsiveness is more important than the specific behavior. So that's the point that I really want to say right now that is separate from attachment theory. The quality, and this is just for parents out there who are like, oh my gosh, attachment theory and attachment parenting is rooted in having a baby with who's more socially competent with better mental health. You can have a healthy child as long as you are responsive and have quality presence. It you
Okay,
don't
so
need.
you're saying presence is more important than the actual attachment. Just
Yes.
being there for the baby is more important than saying, I wear my baby around all day long, but when she cries, I don't really do anything about it. I just wait till I feel like it's time to feed her and then I'll feed her.
Yes,
Okay,
exactly,
okay,
exactly. Presence
okay.
and responsiveness. Responsiveness is like the
Responsiveness.
key word to circle.
Okay,
Um, because they have found that responsiveness and attuned caregiving are the things that bring secure attachment,
okay,
not just attachment parenting.
okay.
So,
You
but
have to
this is
excuse,
about it.
you have to excuse me.
This
I've
is
got like 5 pages of notes here and I'm trying to look up what you're saying to compare. I don't know what you're saying, but what my notes say compared to what you're saying.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to give a little insight. So
Okay.
there was a Harvard University study that found that infants whose caregivers responded promptly to their cries had lower levels of cortisol, stress
Yeah,
hormone.
we're gonna go there again.
No, you have to. You have to in attachment theory. You have to. And even if we're not talking about attachment parenting, we're talking about responsive parenting.
Yes, but didn't we okay, we're gonna go back a couple of videos to the GBs. Is it the GBs? Am I saying that right?
I don't remember.
That are created when you respond to your child, so the cortisone doesn't have to build up so much. They got all these little GBs. We talked about that in the cortisol stress thing.
Yes, but it takes time for those to develop. So when the babies are
Right.
very little, we need to be there to help them develop those pieces.
Okay, so that you're saying that when up to what age are you saying, Julia, that we need to respond instantly?
Well, no, this isn't instantly. This isn't, oh, there's a sound, I go. This is just that the baby knows that if I'm in distress, I will be attended to. I won't have to sit in the stress, unable. Like we're talking about infants. We're talking about 0 to 3 months.
Okay, to 3 months. That's kind of what I wanted to know.
Yeah,
Okay.
0 to 3 months.
Okay.
Because that's when we're really
So,
building the cord.
so you don't believe then in self-soothing before 3 months?
Well, let's not make this about me.
Well,
Let's,
no. What the attachment parenting? Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I
yes,
didn't mean to make it
attachment
about you.
parenting, yes.
Does not
A
believe in
1000%
self-soothing.
no. Self-soothing, attachment parenting would say that babies do not have the capacity in their brain to self-soothe yet. That comes much later after the age of 3.
Years old?
Yes.
3 years old? They can't self-soothe till they're 3 years old?
Little bits. They can do little bits.
Oh
Tiny,
my
like it's
goodness.
like if there's a pie, slowly but surely you eat more and more of the pie until you're able to eat the whole pie. Does that make sense?
It does, it makes sense what you're saying, but I don't agree with it.
I hear that. I
I
hear
don't agree
that.
with
And a
it.
lot of NCSs
Yeah.
are
Through
with you.
experience, I will say that that is not what I've seen.
Yes. Well,
But of
okay.
course, then some experiences say that, well, the baby is not self-soothing, they're just shutting down.
Mm.
Eh, I don't agree
But
with that. But
then you look at the babies and how they are engaged and happy to see everybody in the morning.
right.
And right. So it doesn't seem that's where I think that attachment parenting, I think that there's a little wiggle room when it comes to nighttime.
I
This
think
is
there's a
this is
big wiggle room.
my philosophy. As long as the baby is getting secure, responsive parenting the rest of the day, at nighttime, I think that they get it.
Well, that's one thing that they say about sleep. We're going to bring sleep training into this, but not to bring sleep training in, just to say I'm going to bring it in.
Yeah.
Is if the baby is well cared for during the day,
Yeah.
happy, content, responded to, enough food, everything, then leaving them go at night a little bit for sleep training. Now, I'm not saying cry it out or anything like that. I'm just saying leaving them a little bit instead of
Yeah.
jumping every minute at night. They'll do much better if they're taken care of well during the day.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. And still what I think is important in what you're saying is like eventually they're tended to, right? And I think
Mhm.
that that's even during the night. Like if there's a wail, if they're wailing and it lasts whatever your sleep training method is, if
Mhm.
once they're ready after 3 months old, um, you're not going to let them wail 24 hours I mean, presumably you would, and that would not be responsive. But eventually, okay, this where we're getting off topic.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
We're really not because that's all what attachment parenting, because attachment parents would either have that baby with them in the
yes,
bed, and so
yes,
that baby would do no wailing whatsoever at any time, or maybe in a crib by the bed, which is highly preferred.
yes,
But I did read a thing that said that in 2015, which is 10 years ago,
yeah,
50% of the moms were attachment parenting.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
was shocked because my idea of attachment parenting, and you've kind of explained what it is actually, but my idea is never putting the baby down. You're attached to the baby,
Mm.
basically attached to the baby.
I I think attachment parenting is not always attached. Like, yes, you put your baby down. You let your baby be and play and all that stuff. But when they're really little, it's a lot of carrying.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
talked to a lady yesterday who is an NCS and not only wears the baby to bed,
Oh,
but also attachment parenting to the baby 24/7. Now, granted, she works with people who are high profile and maybe are not involved in their children, just want to have children.
Right.
But I'm sorry, I just don't see that that's healthy for the child. I don't see it. Not even for the first 3 months. I have a problem with it.
And there are other philosophies, and we can talk about those with other in other episodes. I think we should. But attachment parenting looks at, like, so the Harvard study, they found that infants whose caregivers responded promptly to their cries had lower cortisol, right? So their amygdala didn't turn on early, and they had stronger neurological development. So I get where this NCS would be coming from in thinking, okay, I am helping to, like, when we wear our babies, what are we doing? We are helping to regulate their heart rate, regulate their breathing pattern, regulate their stress levels. It's and we call the first 3 months after birth, we call it the fourth trimester, because if we were animals in the animal kingdom that were on four legs, we would still have those babies inside of a womb. So that's the concept of, for the first 3 months, a lot of carrying. But I'm with you, Nancy. Like, I think babies having time to, like, spread out and feel,
Yes.
what does it feel like to have my body stretch? What does it feel like to be able to look around and not be held constantly in that cocoon?
Well, if you do that first 3 months solid, aren't you making the fourth month the fourth trimester? Because really they've still been cocooned for that 3 month time. So the
Yeah.
4 months, when they get to be 4 months and 5 months and 6 months, and you decide, okay, now I'm going to let my baby out of the sack and let them be tummy time or under the play toy or whatever. The
Mhm.
baby's going to be at day one as far as
Yeah.
developmental.
And a lot of attachment parents are not like, I never put my baby down, right? It's like, I put my baby down, and if my baby cries, in they go,
Okay,
right?
okay.
But it's like, a lot of them are, try a little bit of putting the baby down
Mhm,
sometimes. Um, so it's interesting, but the key benefits of secure attachment
mhm.
are that it reduces the infant stress, it improves emotional regulation. And now, Nancy, this is secure attachment,
Okay.
not attachment parenting. Because we can get secure attachment through attachment parenting, but we can also get secure attachment through responsive
Responsive.
parenting,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
The benefits of both of them lead to the same thing, which is secure attachment. And the benefits of secure attachment are reduced stress on the baby, improved emotional regulation when they're older, supported brain development, especially the prefrontal cortex, and um, future social and emotional intelligence.
So I think what you're saying is that it would be good to mix what you were talking about and what I'm talking about to come to a very good way to have a child who is secure.
Yeah,
And a mom who isn't. See, when I look at this, I look at the mom. I look at the
yes,
mom who is carrying this baby around all day. Really, for the first 3 months, it might be okay, but after that, she's going to be like, okay, now really, I need to get things done. Maybe I want to exercise. Maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to do that. But my baby is so attached to me
yeah,
that whenever I put my baby down or give my baby to somebody else, my baby fusses.
yeah, yeah. That's true. And they actually, that is one of the downsides of this. So one of the downsides of attachment parenting is that there is something called, oh my gosh, where is it in my notes? It's maternal burnout.
Yeah.
Um, it doesn't always happen. It
Yeah.
doesn't always happen. Some women are just like their biology, their brain chemistry, their makeup is like, yes, give me that attachment parenting. I want to wear my baby all the time. I love this. And some really need their own
Oh,
space to
space.
sleep,
Well,
their own time.
and if your attachment parent, you're wearing the baby all day long, and
You
then
don't
you're
have to,
no,
is
but
what
just
I'm
a minute.
saying.
But if you are,
Yes.
and then you take your baby to bed to co-sleep,
Yes.
and you have no time for your partner or the marital bed, so to speak, because you
Right.
have this baby. That's things you have to think about too. And
Well, the idea is that other people can also wear the baby when the baby's in that 3 month period.
oh
I'm
man, I'd hate to take care of that baby. I'm
I'm
sorry.
just I'm
Yeah.
giving you the facts as
No,
they
I know. I
are.
know. I would hate to come in as an NCS, which I would never do because attachment parenting is not something we teach. But to have to, if the parents go for a weekend
Yeah.
and leave them with grandma,
Yeah.
oh, that would be a disaster because the baby is so attached.
Well, and they wouldn't, right? If they're attachment parents, they wouldn't do that.
They would take the baby with them,
Yeah.
which of course leads to another
You know, it's
non-romantic
it's
issue.
not a problem unless it's a problem, right? And that's what I tell my parents too. Like, here's what you're probably going to get. But this is, and a lot of other countries emphasize this, that this is, other countries will call this normal baby behavior.
They do.
They call it normal baby behavior, never wanting to be put down, crying, and we in America and people who promote more independence with babies, we're like, it doesn't have to be normal baby behavior,
Yeah.
right? Um,
Right. Right.
so it's a problem only if it's a problem for the parents.
Well,
So let's go into the controversy around this. So bed sharing, let's talk about bed sharing. Are you ready?
oh yeah.
Okay. So it's one of the most controversial aspects of attachment parenting. Um, a lot of mainstream pediatricians warn against it, but anthropologists and sleep researchers will argue that it's biologically normal. Okay. So here's the first myth. Bed sharing is always unsafe.
For me, I would say absolutely 100% it's always unsafe.
Right. Right.
I would, because we teach safe sleep, which
Yes.
is a firm mattress under the baby, no other blankets in the bed with the baby.
Yes.
We want the baby on their back, and chances are the baby's not going to be swaddled, but going to be snuggled by mom or
Yes.
dad, whatever. And there's no safe sleep happening. I mean,
Well, so I know you're right. So according to our like nothing else in the crib flat surface, you can actually have a lot of those in bed sharing. So unsafe bed sharing happens when there are risk factors present, like soft bedding, or if the parent is somehow altered with alcohol use or medication.
or
Um,
marijuana.
or marijuana, absolutely. But if bed sharing is controlled, you've got a firm mattress, nothing around the baby, that the
And
baby
how
could
are you
put
going to
on
do
their
that?
head.
How are you going to do that? How are you going to make an area in your big bed
Some
unless
moms,
unless you box it off, and then you're not bed sharing as far as I'm concerned. Then the baby has got a separate area to sleep in.
some moms will get a mattress and put it on the floor, like a firm mattress, and they'll
Huh?
have it on the floor and they'll sleep there. Sometimes the dad will join them and they'll have like a
On the floor? Come on.
Sometimes they keep it on the bed if they already have a firm mattress and they just pull the covers away from the baby. Mom will tuck the cover under her hip so that it's not near the baby. And then baby's got their arms free. Baby's like wrapped in, like, has a nice onesie on that's warm and mom sleeps in the C shape. She sleeps on her side with her arm under her head. I know, Nancy. Yes. Is
And
it restrictive for the parents? Yes.
it's very restrictive. Because how many people actually sleep in one position all night? I don't. I'm all over the bed. So
Yes.
that's
So
something else you have to think about.
for some people, this would not work.
Yeah.
But you know too, when you're a new parent, especially in those first few months, 0 to 3, you're very attuned to what's baby. You're not sleeping deep,
Yeah. Not if you have a baby in bed with you, for sure.
not if you have a baby in bed with you. Okay, here's another one. Myth
Okay.
or fact, it makes babies dependent.
Yep. 100%.
Okay, so actually it's a myth.
No. 100%. You try to take a baby out of that bed and put them into their own bed and say, now it's time to go to sleep. Good luck with that.
Once we reach preschool years, they've actually found that studies show that co-sleeping infants grow into, so not at the beginning,
Oh
but they
my
grow
God.
into more independent, self-reliant children. That's from McKenna, who's an infant sleep expert. Okay, so here's a couple studies. I know, Nancy. So there was a study published in Acta Pediatricia in 2020, and it found that cultures where bed sharing is the norm, like Japan, Scandinavia, they have lower rates of SIDS compared to countries where infants sleep alone. That's from Blair et al. 2020.
Okay, and we believe Blair. Okay.
No,
Um,
I'm just saying that that was a study,
okay.
which I think is interesting.
So,
It's interesting.
so you need to have the baby sleep in your own bed for 5 years.
Here's another study. In 2004, it had 83 preschoolers. So this is a little study. There were 83 preschoolers that they followed, and the ones who had slept alone from an early age, they were more likely to fall asleep independently and sleep through the night.
Okay.
However, those who co-slept from an early age were more likely to dress themselves, entertain themselves, and resolve problems with peers on their own, which suggests that co-sleeping might be associated with independence in daily activities at a later stage. All right, and this is my last one for you.
I'm rolling my eyes just in case you're
I
wondering what
know,
I'm
I
doing.
see it. I see it. 2024, there was a study using data from the UK Millennium Cohort Study, which followed 16,599 children from the age of 9 months to 11 years old, right? And they found no significant association between bed sharing at 9 months and emotional or behavioral problems later in childhood. And this indicates that co-sleeping does not negatively impact the child's psychological development. But parent preferences, cultural practices, and individual needs really need to be looked at,
Addressed.
addressed.
Addressed. Absolutely. See, and I wonder how, and okay, I have three boys. So when
Yeah.
I had my three boys, the newborn slept in the bassinet next to the bed.
Yes.
Even that age, I knew that baby couldn't be in bed with me because I was exhausted. When you're breastfeeding for an hour and a half and then you have to another hour to sleep and then you can breastfeed again, you're going to be exhausted. So you better have something in mind for your sleep. Okay, so but what I did do, my other boys were 2.5 and 5,
Yeah.
and they knew that as soon as the sun came up, and I mean they watched the sun, they could get in bed with mom and dad. And
That's
they did it
beautiful.
every morning. I had three boys in bed. And I loved that. But I didn't sleep with them at night. And some of these people have a family bed.
Yeah.
How do they know these kids aren't going to roll over on that baby? I honestly think it's unsafe and not a good idea for a newborn. I don't get it.
Well, actually, you're right. So okay, La Leche League has a 7 parameters that they state for safe sleep. And here's
Okay.
what they are. The baby has to be full term and healthy.
Yeah. No prematurity. No
No
medical issues.
prematures. No. The parents have to be non-smokers, and that includes
Yeah.
marijuana. The parents need to be sober, so there needs to be no alcohol, drugs, or sedatives like a sleep aid.
Yeah.
None of that. Um, they mom should ideally be breastfeeding because it promotes lighter sleep cycles for the
Just what she needs.
baby needs to sleep on their back,
Okay.
and the surface needs to be a safe sleep surface. So firm mattress, no pillows around baby, heavy blankets, no gaps in the bedding or anywhere the baby could roll, although most babies aren't rolling at that age. And the parent needs to be mindfully aware of the baby. That's very interesting. Parent needs to be mindfully aware.
How are
Uh,
they going to be mindfully aware when they're
while they're
totally
sleeping.
exhausted?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's true. And the baby also should not be swaddled. It for safe sleep if they're sleeping in there in
Well,
the bed.
Julia, let me ask something. Wouldn't it be so much easier if these parents got one of those cribs that just attach to the bed? They're
Yeah.
open on one end, and the baby
Yeah.
sleeps in a separate sleeping area safely.
Yeah, you could absolutely.
Safely. That I have no problem with that. It's in the bed. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't think
Yeah.
it's safe. I think it hurts your marriage. I think it's a bad idea. Psychologically, even though you showed me little studies, I don't agree with your little studies. I don't think it's going to make a child more independent because they're sleeping with their parents until they're 16. I don't think so.
The idea is that with when a child feels well, so this is the thing, right? We talked earlier about how secure attachment is what we're going for.
Right,
We're going for secure attachment.
right.
And attachment theory and attachment parenting is one thing that leads to secure attachment.
Yes.
That's one thing. But so does responsive parenting.
Yeah. And I like that so much better.
Yeah.
I
And
like that
responsive
so much better.
parenting says you can bottle feed, you can use formula, the baby can sleep independently in their own room. You can baby wear, but there's no need to baby wear if you don't want to. That's responsive parenting. That also leads to secure attachment.
I would like to see studies comparing literal attachment parenting and responsive parenting and see if the baby has any ill effects from
Well,
either one.
I looked into that a little bit,
Okay.
and most of the studies do not, because most of the studies don't look at attachment parenting specifically. They're looking at like, did you co-sleep?
Yeah.
Did you breastfeed? But I haven't been able to find a study that was specifically, were you raised by an attachment style parent
Mhm.
versus, but
Versus
I love that
responsive.
idea. That would be, there are
That'd be-
studies that look at responsive parenting.
mhm. And I love responsive parenting. I think it's an amazing. I just started teaching it in my class probably 3 or 4 years ago.
Yeah,
So it's something that I hadn't, I mean, I just assumed parents did that they responded to their babies. And then
yeah,
I found out, well, maybe not.
yeah.
Maybe we need, and I know in responsive parenting, the baby goes, and you're in there. So I've even got a little bit of a issue with responsive parenting on that level because I
I
believe
think
in,
it's a spectrum, right? Can't it be a spectrum? Like, I practice responsive parenting. I respond to my child not right away. I see if they can figure it out. And then if they can't by, like, if the cry escalates, then I go in.
that's no, that is not true responsive. That is, you
Really?
never let a baby cry so that they uh, get agitated, or you go in as soon as, if not before, they start crying. That is true responsive care. And
Interesting.
yeah, and I do teach that in my class, but I don't agree with it. I think that you need to give a baby, here I go, time to learn self-soothe.
Right.
Cry a minute, they'll probably go right back to sleep. It was probably just oh, I woke up, nobody was here, let me see if I can get anybody in here type of cry.
Or it might be gas. It might be like, oh, wait,
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah,
okay.
no, I'm okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
So yeah, it's a real interesting subject. I'm glad we brought it up and have been able to throw it around some.
Me too. Me
You've
too.
done a really good job on
Thank you.
presenting it. What
Thank you.
what else you got? What else you got in your
I
shoebox?
mean, for the most part, it's just, we could talk about what do sleep consultants and newborn care specialists say. I mean, I think that we've really covered that. Um, I the big thing that I want to focus on is like when it comes to attachment parenting or any other type of parenting, as long as the baby knows that they're loved and that they're attended to
Hmm.
when it matters, they're going to be okay.
I agree with
It,
that.
it really comes down to what works for each person and their family.
Yeah, and yeah, I totally agree with that. And I see like helicopter moms,
Yeah.
and to me, that's destructive. That is not helpful. That
Yeah.
I've seen it a couple of times in my
Yeah.
job,
Yeah.
and the baby feeds off of mom. So as the
Yeah.
mom is helicoptering over the baby is responding to that helicopter movement and
Yes.
being cranky and yeah, I I've always had, and of that's just my old self because I'm probably older than anybody else watching this. The thoughts that babies need to be raised to be independent.
Mm.
Not that I've got three boys, two left, but they're both very independent men, but
Yeah.
they're very loving men.
Mm.
I mean, they're like jewels. They're very loving, and I think that's because of the way I raised them. I mean,
Yeah.
like I said, they were always welcome in our bed after the sun came up. But
Yeah.
before the sun came up, that was my husband and my bed. We got to
Beautiful.
snuggle, we got to do whatever we wanted to do. And they were not allowed in the bed. And if they came to the bed, we would find out what was going on and bring them back to their bed because the sun wasn't up yet.
And that also kind of sounds more in alignment with something called authoritative parenting, which they have
Be
which
authoritative.
which they have found has wonderful results, almost as uh, uh, good as attachment parenting for building kids who feel secure in their bond with their parents. Because with authoritative parenting, I mean, it sounds strict, but it's like, I'm here for you, and this is what we do. This is how we do things in this house,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and we should actually do a whole, we should do an episode on authoritative parenting because it's actually been listed as one of the most positive parenting
Really. And
types.
I've never heard of it.
Yeah.
Authoritative, that would be me.
Yeah. So yeah, let's talk. We'll talk about it on another episode. That'd be really interesting.
Hmm.
But
Okay.
you can still build secure attachments with different types of parenting. The key is
Right.
responsiveness and presence.
And the fact is that you don't need to wear your baby and sleep with your baby for them to become attached to you.
That's true.
There's some
That's
people that think if I don't do these things, my baby will not be attached to me. We will not bond. That is not true. That is
you're
not
right.
true.
Absolutely. That's absolutely correct. Yeah. But if you want to, and if that's what feels best for you and your family,
Then you call a doula. You don't call an NCS.
then call a doula.
A doula will go right along with you. Well, I don't know. She'd probably sleep on that mattress you have on the floor. Is that what
Yeah.
you do? I mean, what would you do if it was a attachment parent with a co-sleeping? What would you do
I've
there?
actually slept on the floor next to the family bed
Oh,
while I don't do it anymore. But yeah, no, I've done that. I've done
oh
that.
my God.
And I
Oh
know
my God.
other people who've done that too.
I'm sure there's some NCSs that have done that also. In fact, I know there are because I've had calls. Mom wants me to sleep in the same bedroom with them. Mom wants me to sleep in the bed with them.
Oh
Mom wants me
no.
to sleep on the floor next to the bed with them. Can I
Yeah.
do that? And I'm like, I wouldn't, but if you want to, I would have a monitor in the room and go
Yeah.
in if the baby starts awaking the
Yeah.
parents up and yeah. But I
Yeah,
would not
exactly.
sleep in the same bedroom as the parents. That's just
I mean, I almost don't know why you'd have an NCS at that point. if because
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, I mean, we
Well,
do.
and in this case, the one I'm talking about, it was, I don't think she ever even held the baby.
Yeah.
She was there to answer any questions. Anytime that they felt insecure or anytime they needed a question answered, but I don't believe she was ever even allowed to hold the baby. Yeah. So they had the money to do that.
Yeah.
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 Just have somebody on call, sitting in the bedroom, a couple doors down.
Yeah.
My baby burped, some stuff came out of its mouth. Is that okay? You know,
Wow.
yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, because back in the old days, when we lived in community, we would have had someone close by that we could say, "Hey, this happened. Is that
Yeah, your
normal?"
mom usually.
Usually your mom. Yeah, it's true.
Oh, please
Or your
God, no.
sister, or yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, if you guys have any other questions about this topic, please feel free to message us.
Bring them up on Mentor Me.
And see us mentor me, or
Yeah,
even in the
comments.
YouTube comments, feel free to
Yep,
leave us a comment.
yep.
Yeah.
Be sure to like us, be sure to subscribe, and thank you so much for watching.
Thanks,
You have a good
everybody.
day.